Welcome back to New Realities in part 2 of my interview with Geraldine Orozco. She is going to be one of the keynote speakers at the upcoming Portal to Ascension, October 1st to the 5th. That is at ascensionconference.com, a free online conference featuring all the best speakers in the UFO field, including Grant Cameron, JJ and Desiree Hurtak, Kathleen Martin, Mary Rodwell. Also includes the Human Potential Movement and other people as well, talking about the ascension frequency. Celeste Starr, Phil Gruber, Rebecca Hardcastle. Anyway, we're going to be talking about some of that, and we will be continuing with Geraldine's understanding of DNA frequency and how to access the ascension codes. This is part 2. You were making some great points about tapping into those other realms, and we're at a critical point of being aware. Continue that discussion, because I think you're onto something as far as activating this higher level.
So we were talking about how now it's not just a isolated pinnacle moment. It's actually evolution is all the time. And right now, what's being highlighted, what's being shown to us is basically all the internal garbage and all the internal, the result of all that programming, and also the suppression of the intuitive, divine blueprint of this body, what it's capable of connecting to that source. And I feel like what we are projecting into the world is a reflection of that exact same battle in which we are trying to find ourselves within this creative life force expression or destruction, whether it's consciousness or the rejection of that consciousness. We are experiencing that, and it's manifesting itself in so many different ways in the world around us. We're dealing with, all of these political issues, the social issues that are happening, everything, all of the dirt and all the stuff in the world that has caused pain and suffering is surfacing. This is the same that's happening with us internally, and we've been feeling that. We've been feeling that for about 10 years now. All these programs are no longer functioning because we're becoming aware of how they have damaged or are no longer congruent with a more authentic, more connected, more balanced state of being, of an expression of a human. So this is where we want to go. What we need to understand is how to rebalance. What is balance? What is truth? How does one find truth in a world with so much deception and confusion? Every single thing, every emotion seems to be weaponized even against us. And we might not even realize that. Maybe even the political movements that are occurring around us are a manipulation of our beliefs that we are actually making a change in the world, moving something in the world. And in fact, are we truly? The change that has to happen on an individual level. And when that happens, not just physically, but the architecture of your entire body and everything that makes up this system is interconnected to your family, to the people that are in your life, your friends, your circle, your network of people. We are grouped together by vibrational frequency. We are grouped together in our families. We are grouped together in our circles of friends, in even our coworkers, even the person walking down the street. There is a vibrational resonance between you and them, and we are somehow crossing paths for that reason. But the same thing, if we look at the global picture, as a collective, as cells of this organism called planet Earth, we are all grouped together in certain states of consciousness or lack of consciousness. So our call to action is understand how to come back from the false programs and beliefs that make you believe that you are unconscious, not powerful, helpless, all of these feelings that contribute to generations of trauma, that are expressions of that generational trauma due to programming, is what we want to work on now. Because all of that inhibits our ability to be the creator, this creator self that we are. There is no question about that.
So you worked on yourself. I mean, you know this because you've done the hard work. You've gone in, you saw how much programming was in your own awareness, and then how did you then clear that? How did you excavate it from your spiritual
So
awareness?
for me, what I realized is that my emotions were my biggest downfall, right? I felt exhausted at the end of the day. I'm reacting to the news on the television. I'm thinking about the song that's telling me that I should have this romantic idealism of a life. I'm thinking about the movie or the thing that I'm watching on TV that's telling me I should behave a certain way. A woman should be a certain way. A family is supposed to be a certain way. And all of those things were lies because my family wasn't that way. My neighbor's family, I mean, I can tell you circumference of my entire city, I couldn't find that perfect idealism of life and a person that they were being shown. So it was a matter of beginning to question. So my emotions started to take over. And when I saw that incongruency in what I was seeing in the world around me, a disassociation occurs. Your emotions are telling you one thing, and you're having to adapt to a certain way of being. And it just doesn't work. And little by little, it's like you become sick, angry, upset, exhausted. So I became tired of being tired and exhausted and angry and confused and lost and still not getting anywhere. So I started to follow the emotions. As soon as I started to feel anger, I sat with the emotion. I allowed myself for the first time to feel the emotion without resistance, without fear, without trying to not to suppress the results or the reactions that resulted from that emotion. What I realized is that we are so desensitized from our emotions that we don't even know them. We are not familiar with them. We don't know how they work. We don't know what happens when we feel it. And this is what happens when the body, what is fear? Fear is the unknown.
Mhm.
We don't know what it's like to feel fear because we spent our entire lives suppressing that fear. Everyone told us it was wrong to feel that or to not feel anger.
So do you go
Even
into the fear? Do you let yourself feel the fear? Do you let yourself then feel those all those intense emotions, shame and anger? So you let yourself have them, and then how do you stop the perpetuation of that?
so, and it's coming into a state of observation because that's a great point, Alan. What happens if you stick with that emotion and you just sit with it? We're so used to experiencing these emotions. We don't know how to process them. We just know how to feel them. We savor them almost.
Right.
Even in that fear, we are savoring them. So the tool is to not continue to savor that emotion. It is a matter of observing it. So if you could visualize bringing yourself up to the crown of your head, looking down at your body, experiencing that anger or that fear, it starts to dissipate. You begin to realize. And I started to go through every single emotion, and I did the same thing. And this is how I began to educate myself on what emotions are. I realized that they're not something that have to be suppressed in the body and hold or ignored. Yet they are just tools that when I feel them, I begin to be informed of other emotions, other subconscious emotions. This is how I started to unlock the subconscious programming. Because what is actually creating and driving your experiences is all of the information from the subconscious mind that's actually feeding into the
So if
experience.
I'm feeling something now because like I should have ended that time that we were on, and then boom, so I'm feeling a little guilty. Anyway, so I'm feeling that, and then what do I do with that feeling?
So if you feel the guilt, and for a moment, observe yourself. What are the fears that come up, right? There's a
Well,
fear of
shame and
making a
sadness and
mistake,
yeah,
right? Sadness, of shame, of
yes,
guilt.
all that
I
stuff.
should have been more prepared. So take a look at all of these emotions that come up. If you start to feel that emotion, first of all, you're going to ask yourself, is it true that you failed? Question those emotions. Ask yourself, is it true that you failed? No, you didn't fail. It was
I
just
don't feel like I failed. I feel like I just could have been more conscious of the bigger picture, maybe. Yes.
Yes. But is it true though? Because there's other things that have occurred that brought you to that moment. And so one of the things that we have a hard time dealing with is with accepting the parts that we maybe mess up in or that we do something wrong, right? What you realize when you go down that rabbit hole is that there is no right and wrong, okay? Everything is a series of cause and effect. Anytime that you are not conscious anywhere on that timeline of cause and effect, whatever it is that you're doing, it perpetuates and creates more suffering, more pain, okay? So you begin to recognize this. And so what this teaches us is that we want to be aware at all times. Ultimately, we take
As much as we
responsibility.
can, as aware as we can of every single thing, and then if we're
So
not, the emotions come up to kind of tune us back in. So
it's awareness of ourselves present in the moment at all times. It's not necessarily aware of everything. It's aware of ourselves, because when we're aware of ourselves, so if we're congruent with our emotions, if we're honest with the emotions that we're feeling throughout our day, we tend to look at things from a more organized manner. Everything falls into place. Everything becomes more organized. But the real deprogramming of these emotions actually would be led all the way back to the very first time in your life that you experienced that emotion. For
right.
example, the shame. And it's in that expression, in that experience, that you begin to unpack the traumas that caused that,
Right.
that locked down the parts of you that needed to come up in order to hold your space, in order to create organization without fear, without judgment. All of these things start to come up naturally. And when you see that, when you acknowledge that, that's when you can then be able to move forward with these emotions.
So
Because
you
unless,
go back to that original, you lock into where maybe the trauma of whatever those original emotions are in your body, and you go back as far as you can, and you be with it so it can be released and not judged. But the bigger picture is, how does that connect to these ET realities? This is a very human process, but where's the bigger ET hybrid superconscious connection?
so all that stuff doesn't come up until you fix up this stuff, okay? Because the fact of the matter is, if you're going to distract yourself with the extraterrestrial, with other interdimensional beings, and still can't understand how this physical body works, you can get yourself in a mess of relating and,
Or
you know,
escaping this world, escaping from what the human reality is. So you're saying we need to really get in touch with our humanity, our humanness, if we're going to
well,
really
we
start to meet. Yeah.
that's right. And there are layers to this reality. We are living in overlays of artificial intelligence. There's the soul layer of the body. There's the spirit layer. There's the Akashic records. When we are aware in the physical body, we become aware of all of those layers. And so then we can truly embody free will, which is the application of that awareness.
Mhm.
Without that, you are like a puppet to your environment, and your environment is not limited to your neighbors or your roommates. It is a result of a bigger, much bigger manipulation of consciousness that we're not aware of. This is the exchange of consciousness that then, this is where we start looking at the extraterrestrial, these very technologically advanced beings, entities that are manipulating the fact that we have yet to control this tiny little physical shell, which is just one fragment of other fragments of ourselves that are available to us and are very important because they inform this experience as well. They inform what we're having.
I think the human part informs those other realities as well. It seems to me they do, because they've lost that connection, especially the hybrids or these beings that want to create the hybridizations. they forgot what these core emotions are like. I mean, in a sense, they want to not to get stuck in that cycle, but they want to experience the totality of what it is to be human. So they're taking our human DNA in order to have the sense of feeling. That's what it seems like.
You know, I have heard that the concept of extraterrestrials wanting to have emotions, but the thing is that emotions are just tools. They're information. These beings, they possess more advanced aspects. They have other aspects of their DNA activated, right? Which is why they can be interdimensional and start connecting with telepathy. Some of them don't procreate. All of these little specifics of these races. But ultimately, it's the consciousness that wants to experience polarity, okay? And all of us, these extraterrestrials, archons, entities, all of these living organisms are sharing the experience of polarity, of creation or destruction.
Well, I
And
would say that's part of the soul incarnation. To maybe you call it polarity. I call it feelings, possibly. The feeling sense is what the soul, from my understanding, is yearning for. The love, the compassion. These are they're. I don't think they're just information. They're things that we incarnate to have those experience of, and for the rest of creation in a way to share those deeper emotions, not just the cyclical. I mean, would you agree with that? Maybe you have your own ideas about that.
well, I tend to believe that it's not so much about feeling, I feel, because feeling is it's 3D, it's very physical. We only feel because of these nervous systems communicating to
No, I mean the emotional feeling. Yeah,
okay.
go ahead.
Yeah, well, what I've seen in my personal journey is that emotions are tools for information that either help creation or contribute to destruction, right?
Yes.
So the way I tend to look at emotions and feelings is one or the other. Either you are a creator, and because of the balance that you've achieved with these emotions, you now can create life, or you go into destruction. We look to nature to see what is truth, what is balance, because nature, it doesn't have emotions, and yet it follows through a natural order, a divine order of existence that doesn't question its existence. It is a part of a whole system, an ecological system that has a very delicate balance. And I feel that we also have that part in nature. And however, because of the free will, we have a choice of either experiencing either one. And through this experience, we are informing the source, which is here to experience all possibilities infinitely, whether it's manifesting as a human on this planet or an extraterrestrial on another planet, or maybe a piece of a particle in another universe. I tend to believe that they're just extensions of experience feeding into the source.
So we're here to inform the source, but we are the source. The source is the emanations of the creative essence in general, right? I mean,
Yes.
it's who we are.
We are that source, but we don't recognize that source if we come into a destructive cycles in this body. Any aspect of ourself that rejects its own consciousness cannot embody creation. It only destructs. So that happens to the cells in the body, it happens to our physical body, it happens to our mind, to the fragments. We can have many fragments that are destructive, many fragments that are incredibly creative on a high vibrational frequency. And all we're talking about is like a white light that shines on a prism and then fragments into different fractals, right? We create a spectrum, and we are experiencing all of that spectrum. It's all the emotions, it's all the experiences, it's creation and destruction equally. We have the ability of doing it.
So we incarnate here as well as many, many realms. and we're informing the source through our experience, through our moment-to-moment experience of creation. And if we stay open, we keep getting fed the creative potential of the moment, which is everything's being created right now in a sense, on all levels and dimensions. And the open awareness of these multidimensional realities feeding into our consciousness is the ongoingness of creation. It's the aliveness of creation on many levels. So the purpose, you say, of incarnation would be what then? What is the
Yeah,
ultimate? Yeah.
awesome question. And so, Alan, that's really what takes us to the next step of this concept, right? So what happens when you're a human that continues to be born in this planet Earth, back into the same lineage, maybe another one, but we are grouped together by vibrational frequency. So our entire family is actually cyclically processing the same traumas, the same blockages, the same problems that we are struggling with. Our entire lineage, until its origin, has chosen to experience. However, what happens when you have to experience and relearn self-worth for centuries, right? Where is your free will then? This is where we begin to experience the parasitic consciousness that we're talking about. When consciousness rejects itself, it becomes parasitic. And when a consciousness doesn't want to wake up or doesn't recall that it has the ability of waking up, it continues to come back into that reincarnation cycle. The moment that you're going into death, you have an option. If you are someone that is consciously aware, that's been training throughout your life to question, if things are within balance or things are coming out of balance, the moment that you detach from your body, you enter another dimension, another realm in which you will be presented with the same kind of experiences that we have on Earth, things that will trigger a request for your awareness or a lack of your awareness. And if you're not aware in that moment, you can be brought right back into the same cyclical pattern. And so the idea is, when you die, the vibrational frequency that you have at the moment of your die, and the vibrational frequency is the product of everything that you're made out of since the very beginning of time. Your infinite source, your organization, the DNA information that feeds into that's your vibrational frequency. This will dictate your next journey, okay? And at the same time, it's just a part of you that resonates with your own fragments that are available to you in your own network of consciousness. So your attention goes from this human body to the next aspect of yourself that wants to become aware that wants to experience in that moment.
In each
So
moment that's happening for us.
in each moment.
That's happening for us right now.
That's correct. That's
We
correct. So, but the thing is that we tend to not realize that when we die, we also have that ability to become aware of what we can experience. And if
What's
we
the difference between the embodiment or the disembodiment? What's the difference in that two
so
modes?
the difference is that we can either choose to experience this aspect of the soul and what it wants to experience next. If the human body vacates the body and is in denial of leaving the body, for example, it can fragment at that moment. And these fragments of the body can stay in between these realms, and that's what we have as ghosts, for example, these in-between fragments. Ultimately, every time that the human soul experiences trauma, it becomes fragmented. More fragments of yourself make up a part of this whole organism. When you're in the hybridization program and you create a child, that's also a fragmentation that has occurred. The more that the soul is fragmented, the more intertwined it is within these specific dimensions. This current timeline, the three-dimensional Earth plane, for example, we have thousands of our fragments that are still tying us here to this dimensional experience. And if we don't clear those, breaking contracts, clearing up those relationships, rebalancing the exchange of information and intelligence between these two um, entities or beings or organisms or humans, we are connected to them, and it keeps bringing us energetically back to this kind of same experience. So we can have, it's almost like a record that gets skipped. It keeps going back, 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 because it hasn't dissolved that experience. It hasn't become aware on all those levels. When the soul leaves the body, you are met with all of these fragments, the fragments that you created in this physical body and the ones that you are attaching to on other planes. So the thing is that if you want the ultimate function of you as an extension of source is to return back to that source, to just become aware of yourself being a whole. And so what we want to do is we want to reintegrate those fragments. We are reintegrating, coming back to this whole source. But it's up to you, right? It's completely up to you. You can choose to do that, or you can choose to not do that. This design of fragmentation and coming to whole is occurring in this moment between me and you. It's occurring collectively as a human race. It's occurring multiversally in the universe with these extraterrestrials and hybrids. We are all cells traveling, returning, and experiencing wholeness and separation.
No, I appreciate everything you're saying. I really enjoy this conversation because I think you're really, you've really got a big picture of all this. So each moment is a challenge for us to stay present within the experience of the source coming through us, or to go unconscious into the cycles of conditioning. And we have to make an effort each moment to stay here, which activates the greater mind. And this is the challenge of wherever we are. Do we want to go into the past or the future, or do we want to stay present in what I call the moment of feeling, So, and when we can do that, I think that's when we reach those other levels. Or in your case, you are, boom, pulled out and, in a sense, forced to encounter those levels as well. So, I, I mean, what's, I mean, no, it's all really fascinating because I haven't heard it put this way, because I, only someone who's really done that inner work can really have a handle on this. So what is the journey from here? What are you up to? Where are you going? What are you doing?
What am I doing?
What's
Well,
the journey as you kind of move forward? Yeah.
um, becoming aware of my my sourceness. In other words, I am currently writing a book, a series of books about my experience in this, and I teach classes, and I do DNA reprogramming, ascension coaching to help people navigate and traverse these very difficult blockages, emotional blockages that don't help us see beyond that. So yeah, so if you'd like to get a session with me, I'm also a hypnotherapist. You can work with me. I work with experiencers, hybrid parents that are having trouble with the trauma that results out of the hybridization program, men and women. And more importantly, these groups that we're trying to collaborate, establishing conferences that are more for embodiment, for experience. That's kind of what I'm working on building right now.
Yeah.
So anybody that's interested in working on that, please get in touch with me. Very happy to be of service.
No, definitely contact Geraldine Orozco. But as we're talking, I feel like there's like a deeper level to this dialogue that you're saying, where as you merge with the ET's realities, there's maybe not even a language to communicate these next levels, but somehow I think you're going to bring it through. And then people have to be at the level where they can meet it. But I get the feeling that you're being fine-tuned for that, a kind of multidimensional communication that will talk to other people's levels of multidimensionality. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. It's my realm. I love to play in this realm of multidimensionality because I feel like before all of this happened, I was not aware of how multidimensional we are. And it's changed my life in how I see the world, how I see myself. I feel like if more people can try to grasp that aspect, we wouldn't be so stuck in this little one-on-one dynamic that we tend to get so stuck in, that we feel we can't move forward, we feel blocked. So yes, and it's funny that you say that. One of the things that I'm working on is creating this concept, this idea of how vibrational frequency is merging shapes, form, color into a language that we are just now learning how to embody, because we think language is just the verbal, and maybe we can see and pick up some things, but we communicate more non-physical than we do or verbal.
Right.
And that communication is actually the most important. It is literally processed through the body, through the whole system, not just verbally, and it's through vibration that the body is constantly absorbing that, like epigenetics and all these things that we
Right.
are becoming aware of. Yeah.
Well, you know, the planet or the sense of where I come from on some multidimensional level is this color exchange. I mean, I was very synesthetic as a child where I would feel colors, and I think there's a language of colors that we are not aware of, and color combinations want to show us different energetic patterns that can't quite be translated into emotion, but into some sense of feeling. It's not human emotion, but it's emotion of these, I don't even know what to call it, extraterrestrial exchanges.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah.
It is absolutely, and in healing, color is a very powerful, one of the most powerful tools that we don't recognize how powerful color is, because it's imbued with information, with intention, right? It's vibrational frequency that really affects the matter. It really changes the way it is. And
But
I
it's
think
language. No, go ahead. What are you saying?
it is very much a language. Like crop circles, for example, this sacred geometry, these forms are an expression of information that affects the body in more ways than we even realize.
Right.
So
Have you been to the crop circles in England?
unfortunately,
Oh,
no.
let's
I'm hoping.
go. Let's
I
go.
would love that.
I've
Yeah.
been there a couple of times and it is just so, you can feel it on the energetic body. I was in this 8-8 circle that was
Wow.
created on the August 8th, 2008. So there was an 8-8-8 and the circle was an 8. And
Wow.
when I stood in the center of that 8, it was a real Kundalini activation. It's a
Mhm.
real vibratory activation. But each circle was a different feeling. So it's a language and a grammar, and it's great. I think you would really enjoy the the,
Wow.
the circles, and they're still happening.
Yeah.
They are.
Would love that. Yeah. Thank you, Alan.
Right. Well, no, I love your work, and from now, remember back to the time that I just met you briefly, I feel this huge activation in you of the throat chakra, like you gain this voice of communication, and now is your time to share so much of what you're bringing in, and you're just going for it. So I just want to say Geraldine will be at the Portal to Ascension conference that's happening October 1st to the 5th. And that is at ascensionconference.com. You can sign up for that. She'll also be on the Divine Feminine panel. I think that's the first day. I think that's October 1st. And what else? Talk a little bit about your classes that are coming up.
Yeah, so excited. I really hope you guys can make it. I'm going to be a part of the experiencer panel as well. And I apologize, I don't have the list of who's going to be with me in there, but I know
Oh,
Coral.
well,
Coral,
can you put it up on yours?
yeah,
Oh,
yeah, I'll put it up. Please find it. It's on my website too, so you guys can
can we
go to the
put it up
website.
here as people watch it? Can we can you
Oh, I
get it?
didn't know you
If
have
you
that.
go to screen share your website, and then
Okay.
you'll be able to put that up.
Oh,
But yeah, there's 50 speakers, 50 different speakers that have been part of the Portal to Ascension platform for the last 5 years. And I really enjoyed what Neil Gar, who's put the whole thing together, wants to give back. This is his sense of giving back. This is a free conference, and it is October 1st to the 5th. And it's at ascensionconference.com. You could sign up there, and we have a lot of great speakers on all levels of consciousness. We have an ascension panel with Deborah Giusti. We have an experiencers panel. We have a divine feminine panel. We have a actually just academic UFO panel that the Hertogs are on in Grand Cameron. I'll be hosting that. We have a brilliant guy named Dan Winter, who's one of the most amazing, most sophisticated scientists of energetics that I've ever met. Who else do we have? We have, Adam Apollo for people tuning in. And part of this interview today with Geraldine is to promote this conference. So go to ascensionconference.com, and there's a list of speakers there. Maybe I could bring it up too. And do you see it on your? Oh yeah, there we go.
so I'll just share this real quick. This
Oh,
is October 1st to the 5th, and so this will be. Oh, this doesn't actually show the
this is
pin.
good. 50 speakers, 4 MCs, panels. But what? Yeah, you can keep. Oh yeah, there we go.
Yeah,
There.
so I'll be on with Caroline, Corey, and I believe Kathleen
Kathleen
Martin
Martin. Do you know who
will
she is? She is the niece of
you.
Eddie Hill.
Yes, yes, it's so exciting to be on a paddle with her, to see her. She has some great content, and I know she's doing some amazing research right now on experiencers.
And
She's
there's
put
Philistine Star there, who is a contactee. Rebecca Hardcastle, who talks about exo consciousness. Kimberly Meredith, who's a healer. Laura Eisenhower. Stephen Halpern, the musician. Trisha McCannon. This is a great, fun-filled, a packed of information conference, and it's free. So, in your particular lecture, are you doing a lecture, Geraldine? What are you going to talk about?
Yeah, I'll be talking on the hybridization program. So we'll be going a lot deeper into that. And my presentations are always full of imagery and lots of information for you guys to have some visuals on what exactly the multidimensional body and how it connects to the hybridization program. But I'm also going to be hosting the mass meditations at 11:11.
Oh, you will. Great.
Yeah. So yeah, that's so exciting. Do check that out because that's one of my passions is teaching meditation. So I'd be very happy to see you guys there.
Right. I think more and more information is going to be coming to you because you seem to be really activated and really in a place to communicating as much as you can. You're doing a 30-day challenge with people who tune into you. Can you talk about that? What the 30-day challenge is?
Yeah, so right now I do these 30-day challenges where it's 30 days. We get on, a Zoom call, and you come in and do some really heavy work with me. So all of this deprogramming I share with you. I spend an hour with you doing Q&A. And so right now we're doing a self-healing challenge. So I go through all the possible tools of self-healing that you could possibly know, energetically, emotionally, physically, to set you up. And at the end of these 30 days, you really are understanding the power that you have to heal the body and the kind of frequencies that you need to come into that awareness and empowerment and rebalancing of the human organism. So it's a really powerful class, and I have a Facebook group that you can join. It's part of my Seeker Plus program on my website, where you can sign up for these courses and workshops that I do with you one-on-one. So yeah,
I want to
really,
keep promoting that too. And
yeah, I would love
of course,
that.
oh, you have important work. I think I mean, I hope you value it. I'm sure you do
Oh,
because,
absolutely.
but you're an original too because not that many people are tuning into so many different levels at once. So I'm happy that you're doing so. Thank you for sharing. Let's be in touch about whatever we can maybe co-create.
I would love that, Alan. Thank you for having me. It's an honor to be here, and I know that my father was a huge fan of you. So I
Really? Wait,
yeah
what do you mean? Tell me about that.
yeah I told him that I was going to be on your show, and he's like, it's very exciting because he used to watch. He told me I used to watch Alan all the time on New
Really?
Realities. Yeah,
Your father's open to this kind of stuff?
yeah, yeah. I was blessed with a very spiritual family, and they are like the rock. If it wasn't for them, can you imagine what would happen with all this information?
No, it's great. But you is your father still with us?
Yes, yes,
Well,
yes,
tell him I say hello and thank him very much for tuning in. That is exciting for me to be.
yes.
Well, I'd like to meet him sometime too.
That'd be so great. I'm sure it would be a thrill. It would be a thrill
I,
to do.
I'd be happy to meet him too. Thank you. Thanks so much, Geraldine, for.
All right, for your work. Thanks for the platform, and I'll see you this weekend. Hope to
Okay.
see you all at Portal to Ascension.